G'day everyone, welcome back to the Food Room. Today we're going to do a recipe that we call bangers and mash, which is really sausages, onion and mashed potato. So to get us started, we're going to make sure our hygiene is sorted. So I have my hair up, I have my apron on, and I've been over to the sink and I've washed my hands, singing my happy birthday song, which is the amount of time that we're going to wash our hands for. So here we have our trolley with all our ingredients, and we've got some sausages, so students will get two sausages each. They'll get a teaspoon of oil, a quarter of an onion, some plain flour for their gravy or sauce, some water from their own taps, some stock powder, a tablespoon of tomato sauce, a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and a potato. Now, you can think about what sort of potatoes you buy. Your students, ours is an unwashed potato. You'll be amazed at how many students don't know how to handle a potato. So we'll show you how to do that later. Okay, so as basic as it is showing you how to peel a potato, we have had students who don't know how to use a peeler and they don't know how to peel a potato. So we're working over the top of our food scrap container and we're peeling that. And then once that's peeled, we'll actually get the students to give that a wash as well. So our potato has been peeled and now we're giving it a wash, and then we'll take that back over and chop that up. Now what we're doing is we're cutting up our potatoes ready for our mash. I kid you not, we had a student, it was a long time ago, that was saying their potato's not ready, it's not soft, it's not ready. And we went and checked their pot, and they had put an entire potato into the pot for the mash. So very clearly you need to chop up your potato. Now the other thing we're doing is we're putting our potato into cold water, and then that's going to go on top of the stove. So my potatoes are sitting in there now, and I've just taken some water out of there because you just want to have them covered. Now the other thing about is, I would normally have put them in boiling water to make it cook quicker, but that's not what you do. You need to make sure that your potatoes go in cold water, and then that way they cook a little bit more evenly and you don't have the outside of the potatoes disintegrate. And we're going to put the lid on the potatoes, and then that will help them cook a little bit quicker. So we're collecting our tablespoon of plain flour into a small bowl. We're also getting our beef stock, which is a teaspoon of beef stock. Again, that gets levelled off. And we're getting our two sauces, and our Worcestershire sauce, we have a teaspoon of that, and we have the same for the tomato sauce. Now, the thing about doing these sorts of things is there are times when you need to be exact with your ingredients, and there are definitely times when we do a splash and a dash. So if you're wanting to do a splash and a dash, that's fine. Okay, now we're going on to getting our ingredients ready for our fry pan. So the first thing we're going to do is get our onion out and put that onto a green board. Actually explaining to the students about taking off the skin is a good one as well. And then we're going to slice it one way, and then we're going to put it the other way and make it nice and fine. Our food scraps go in our food scrap container, and that's already out on the bench. Now we're going to go over to our stove, and we're going to put our oil in our fry pan. I think the recipe says like a teaspoon of oil, but really a splash and a dash for this is fine. We've got our sausages ready to go. So we're going to put our sausages and our onion, let's put our sausages in there. Just spreading the oil around, and our sausages will sit into that. Okay, so our sausages have just gone on, as you can see, and I'm looking at our pot with the potatoes in there, and I can see the steam coming out. So when you lift the pot lid up, you want to make sure it's away from you so you don't get any of that steam burn on your skin or on your face, and they're going nicely. And then I'm also just going to turn that down. Our sausages are coming along nicely, and we've got our ingredients ready to add into that. They're nice chubby sausages, so they'll take a moment longer than a thinner sausage. And you can see that I've now put 2 in there because we're doubling our recipe today. So the students would be cooking this in pairs. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is we've just taken a sausage out of that fry pan, and we're going to check that that's cooked so there's no pink in that. And we're going to cut them up so that they're ready for the next stage of our cooking lesson.
You can see that one.
Okay, so now what we're doing is we're adding our onions into our fry pan. And we're using all those flavours from the sausages and the oils to cook all that. Now our fry pan is actually really hot and the oil's really hot, so this really isn't going to take too long. So you need to make sure someone is staying with it and looking after it.
Oh, that smells so good.
So our onions are going beautifully and the smell in where we are is just awesome. So we're going to add our flour to make our gravy. Now, if you tip the whole thing in, you'll end up with chunkus gravy, which, you know, some people like. But what we're really doing is putting a little bit at a time, and we're mixing that onion and that oil together. So it does take a little bit of tender love to work through this, but the process of getting this done, I can assure you, is really nice. And we've also got our potatoes over there steaming away nicely. So we really try to get those potatoes on because the process of mashing your potatoes takes a little while. Our heat is now being switched off, and we're going to add a cup of water because we've doubled our ingredients as if we're doing it in pairs. Now again, this is not something you just tip the whole cup of water in. You put a little bit at a time and you thoroughly mix your ingredients with your water.
Add more stock?
Yep. So while I was doing the onion and flour and water, I had the heat turned off because there's quite a few steps into doing this. And now that it's all in there and it's coming along nicely, we've turned the heat back on and we've added our stock and mixing that through. We're going to add our 2 sauces, our tomato and our Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to say Worcestershire sauce is probably one of my favourites for bits and pieces. I do have a bottle of that at home. And then that will all start to, all those flavours will start to fuse together and thicken up. Our sausages are going to go back into that gravy. Giving that a bit of a stir. You can see that's come together really nicely now. Our sausages and onion are coming along lovely, and we're just going to check our potatoes and make sure they're ready. So we stab them and then they need to be nice and soft. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our potatoes over to the sinking area, making sure that we have a nice space in which to work. Being careful of our steam, careful of our burns, and that gets put back into the pot.
Sorry, I've got to put this, it's too far away.
So mashing is another skill for students who might not have done this. We've actually grabbed a potato masher and we're mashing our potatoes in the pot. Slap and a dash of pepper and a little bit of salt, optional if you wish. A goodly dollop of butter. And a dollop of milk. So again, you know, being precise with ingredients is fine, but it depends on the consistency that you're after, your bits and pieces, and the flavours you're after. And that will come together really quite nicely. Mashing away.
Bit more milk. More butter.
Just using our knife to get that off. So it's now time to serve up our ingredients, and we're putting them into alfoil trays, and that will go into the oven. Now the reason we're putting it in the oven is even though all your food is cooked, we're just fusing all those flavours together and everything baked tastes tasty as well. So we're using a serving spoon to get all of that out of the fry pan.
I'm very even-handed here.
Moving our equipment out of the way so we have a safe work area. And we're going to use another serving spoon to put our mashed potato on the top. If you put a big chunk of your potato on your food, you can spread it out, but you'll find that you tend to bring up the ingredients underneath it. So it is easier to put little dollops of your potato on the food and then spread that out. If you're thinking about your presentation, if you're thinking about how it looks, then that's probably a way to go. Our ingredients are nicely onto the top of our sausage and gravy, and that's on a baking tray. Put it on a baking tray before you put it into the oven. I'm going to take that over to the oven. I'm going to make sure I open the oven door completely so it doesn't bounce up. And I'm going to put my tray in landscape and close the oven door so that there is, it's not banging. Now that has to stay in the oven for about 20 minutes at about 180. But really you need to think about, you know, how much time you have in the class because the food is ready to cook and ready to eat.
Just watching up. So
Once your food is in the oven, we now need to go and look at our cleaning up. And if you're doing the dishes as you go, that's great. But if you're not, then you're going to have a pile of bits and pieces to do. So make sure your dishes are scraped and that they're washed, and your bench is clean, and you're putting your food onto a nice clean bench, or you're putting your clean dishes onto a nice clean bench. Okay, our dish has been in the oven for about 20 minutes now, and the smell is all through the room. So again, I know I go on about opening and closing the oven door, but it's really important. I'm going to open it all the way so it doesn't bounce back. I'm going to take my food out of the oven and put it straight onto a cooling tray. I've used my oven mitts, and I'm going to close the oven door so that it doesn't bounce back. And I'm going to turn my oven off straight away. Again, here, be careful of that safety. And it's piping hot, and once it's cooled down a little bit, I'm going to enjoy what we call our bangers and mash. So thanks for watching.
Stick it in.
So I forgot to mention, one of the things we also do is we have these lids to go onto the top of the alfoil trays, but they don't go on while they're in the oven. But it is an easy way for the students to safely take them out of the room. So we just put that on. And sometimes if we can remember, we ask the kids to bring in a fork. If not, we'll give them a fork so that they can eat this awesome meal for recess or lunch.